We begin tonight exactly as we always do, with a breath. A slow, deliberate breath drawn from the very bottom of your lungs, pulling the stillness of the evening deep into your body. Hold it there for just a moment. Feel the weight of the day resting on your chest, the accumulated hours of decisions and conversations and movement, and now let it all go. Exhale slowly, completely, letting the tension drain from your shoulders, your neck, the tight muscles framing your jaw. The day is finished. There's nothing left to solve, no remaining task that cannot wait for the morning light. Right now, in this exact moment, the only thing required of you is rest. Let your hands fall open wherever they have landed. Let your legs grow heavy. Let the mattress hold the full unresisted weight of your body. You are safe. You are warm. And tonight, we're going somewhere ancient. Tonight, we're travelling deep into the heart of Stardew Valley. But we're not visiting the farms or the bustling town square or the cosy warmth of the Stardrop Saloon. We're going somewhere much older than any of those places. We're going into the forest. We're going to follow the story of small, luminous creatures who have existed in the valley since long before the first fence post was driven into the soil, long before the first chimney released its smoke into the mountain air, long before any human voice echoed off the cliffs surrounding Pelican Town. We're going to follow the story of the Junimos. It is a story about nature and magic, about the delicate ancient relationship between the land and the spirits that protect it. It is a story about abandonment and restoration, about what happens when a community forgets the things that matter and what it takes to remember them again. It is a gentle, luminous story, and it moves at the pace of seasons turning, of moss growing slowly over stone, of starlight filtering through a canopy of leaves. You do not need to stay awake for all of it. If the rhythm of the words carries you away while we're deep in the forest, while the Junimos are dancing in the moonlight, that is exactly what this is for. Let the story be a current, and let yourself drift upon it. I will keep talking, a quiet voice in the dark keeping you company as you cross that soft, gentle threshold into sleep. Before we step into the trees, if these quiet, atmospheric journeys help you find rest at the end of a long day, I would be grateful if you considered subscribing to this channel. It is a small thing, but it helps these stories reach other people who might be lying awake right now, searching for something gentle to guide them towards sleep. And if you're already settled in, if moving feels like far too much effort, that is perfectly fine. But if you feel like it, drop a comment letting me know where in the world you're listening from tonight. There is something deeply comforting about knowing that across different time zones, in different rooms, in different countries, other people are falling asleep to the exact same words. We're all resting together, connected by the quiet. Now, close your eyes whenever you're ready. Let your breathing settle into the slow, rhythmic pulse of the night. We're walking into the forest. The forest surrounding Stardew Valley is impossibly old. The trees here are not the tidy ornamental saplings you might find lining a city boulevard. These are ancient, towering organisms, their trunks thick with centuries of patient growth, their roots plunging deep into the earth, intertwining beneath the soil in a vast invisible network that stretches far beyond anything the eye can see. The canopy overhead is dense, a layered cathedral of green during the warm months, a skeletal lattice of bare branches during the frost of winter. The air beneath the trees smells of damp earth, decomposing leaves, pine resin, and something else, something harder to define. A faint, sweet fragrance that does not belong to any single flower or herb. It is the scent of the forest itself, the accumulated breath of thousands of living things exhaling together in a perpetual quiet rhythm. Somewhere deep within this forest, in the places where the undergrowth is thickest and the sunlight barely penetrates, there are clearings, small hidden circles of open ground, carpeted in soft emerald moss, ringed by ancient oaks and whispering pines. These clearings are not random. They are not the result of a fallen tree or a shift in the soil. They are deliberate. They are gathering places. And if you were to visit one of these clearings on a night when the moon hung full and heavy over the valley, when the air was perfectly still, and the only sound was the distant rhythmic chorus of crickets, you might see something extraordinary. You might see the Junimos. They are small, impossibly small. Each one is roughly the size of an apple, a round, luminous little body with two bright, shining eyes, and a pair of delicate, almost invisible limbs. They glow faintly, each one emitting a soft, warm light in a colour unique to itself. Some glow green, the deep, saturated green of summer leaves. Others glow blue, the pale, cool blue of a winter sky reflected in still water. Some are red, warm and flickering like the embers of a dying campfire. Others are yellow, bright and cheerful as a field of sunflowers turning toward the afternoon sun. Purple, orange, pink. A constellation of tiny living lights drifting through the darkness of the forest floor, bobbing gently as they move, leaving no footprints in the moss, disturbing not a single blade of grass. They are forest spirits, keepers of the ancient woods. They have been here for as long as the trees themselves, perhaps longer. Their origins are wrapped in the deepest layers of the valley's mythology, tangled with the roots of the oldest legends, connected to forces and histories that predate any written record. The Junimos do not belong to the human world. They belong to the forest, to the earth, to the quiet, patient magic that hums through the soil and the stone and the water of Stardew Valley. They are as much a part of the landscape as the rivers carving slowly through the rock, as the wildflowers blooming in the meadows, as the stars wheeling silently overhead in their ancient, predetermined paths. Let your body sink deeper into the mattress. Imagine the cool, soft texture of moss beneath your fingertips. Imagine the faint, sweet fragrance of the forest drifting over you like a gentle breeze. Let the tension in your lower back dissolve. You are lying on the forest floor, surrounded by the quiet hum of 1,000 tiny living things, perfectly safe, perfectly still. The Junimos communicate in a language that no human ear can naturally understand. It is not spoken in words, exactly. It is more like a melody, a series of soft, high-pitched sounds that blend together into something resembling music. When a group of Junimos gathers in one of those hidden forest clearings, their voices create a faint harmonic hum that vibrates through the air, barely audible, like the distant ringing of a crystal glass. Their language contains within it the essence of the world around them. Their alphabet, when written, incorporates imagery from the natural world, the shapes of creatures, the forms of minerals and plants, the outlines of the very monsters that lurk in the deeper caverns beneath the mountains. It is a language that does not merely describe the world, it is woven from it. Most of the residents of Pelican Town cannot see the Junimos. To the mayor, to the shopkeepers, to the farmers walking their well-worn paths between the fields and the saloon, the Junimos are invisible. They exist on a different frequency, a different layer of perception, accessible only to those who possess a particular attunement to the forest's ancient magic. When Mayor Lewis walks into the old community centre and sees small shapes scurrying in the shadows, he does not see luminous forest spirits. He sees rats. He sees vermin. He sees a pest problem in an abandoned building, nothing more. The disconnect between what is actually there and what he is capable of perceiving is a quiet, profound tragedy. The magic is right in front of him, and he cannot see it. He has lost the ability to see it, perhaps because the town itself has lost the ability to believe in it. But the Junimos are not simply invisible folklore. They are real, they are present, and they are deeply, fundamentally concerned with the health of the valley. The Junimos exist in a delicate symbiotic relationship with the natural world. Where nature thrives, the Junimos thrive. Where the forest is healthy, where the rivers run clean, where the soil is rich and the air is clear, the Junimos are abundant, visible to those who can see them, active and engaged with the world around them. But where nature is neglected, where the land is poisoned or paved or abandoned, the Junimos retreat. They pull back into the deepest, most hidden corners of the forest, their light dimming, their presence fading, until they become nothing more than a faint memory, a character in a children's television program, a creature mentioned in a dusty book of local fables shelved in a forgotten corner of a quiet home. This is exactly what happened in Pelican Town. Slowly, gradually, over the course of many years, the town forgot. The community stopped tending to the things that mattered. The younger generation grew up staring at screens instead of walking the forest paths. The old gathering places fell silent. The rhythms of communal life, the shared meals, the collective celebrations, the simple act of neighbours coming together to care for a shared space, all of it eroded, grain by grain, like soil washing slowly from an untended hillside. And at the centre of that erosion stood a building, the community centre. Breathe in slowly, hold the air in your lungs for a count of 3, and release. Feel the slow, deliberate emptying of your chest. Let the rhythm of your breathing match the patient, unhurried pace of a forest that has been breathing for millennia. You are safe. You are still. The story continues, and it will carry you deeper. The community centre was once the pride and joy of Pelican Town. It was a beautiful, spacious building constructed of warm wood and solid stone, standing prominently in the heart of the village. It was a gathering place, a celebration hall, a meeting room, a space where the entire community came together to share in the rituals and rhythms of valley life. Festivals were planned there, decisions were made there, friendships were formed and strengthened within its generous, welcoming walls. The community centre was the physical embodiment of the town's collective spirit, the tangible proof that the people of Pelican Town cared about each other, about their shared home, about the ongoing collaborative project of building a life together in this small, beautiful corner of the world. But time passed. The world changed. The rhythms of communal life gave way to the isolating pull of individual routines. The Joja Corporation, a massive impersonal conglomerate, opened a warehouse-sized supermarket on the outskirts of town, pulling customers away from Pierre's small general store, eroding the economic foundation that kept the community anchored. Younger residents left the valley for the bright, anonymous lights of Zuzu City. The ones who stayed found themselves increasingly disconnected from each other, caught in the gravitational pull of their own private struggles. The community centre, once the beating heart of Pelican Town, was quietly, gradually abandoned. The doors were locked, the windows grew dusty, the paint peeled, the roof began to leak. Weeds pushed through the cracks in the foundation. The building that once held the town together was left to slowly, silently fall apart, and in the silence of that something extraordinary happened. The Junimos moved in. They came because the building was no longer claimed by human activity. They came because the forest was reclaiming what had been neglected. When humans abandon a space, when they stop maintaining, stop caring, stop investing their attention and effort into a place, nature does not leave a vacuum. Nature fills the space. Moss grows over the stone, vines crawl through the broken windows, insects nest in the rotting wood, and the Junimos, those ancient forest spirits, drift in from the trees, drawn to the quiet, the stillness, the absence of human noise. They settle in the dusty corners. They make their home in the crumbling walls. They treat the abandoned building not as a ruin, but as a reclaimed piece of the natural world, a human structure slowly returning to the forest from which its materials were originally taken. The Junimos did not destroy the community centre. They did not tear it down or dismantle it. They simply inhabited it, the way moss inhabits a fallen log, the way mushrooms inhabit a rotting stump. They were patient. They were quiet. They waited in the dark for something to change. Let the image of that abandoned building rest in your mind. The dusty windows, the peeling paint, the quiet interior where small luminous shapes drift silently through the shadows. It is a melancholy image, but it is also a hopeful one. Because even in abandonment, even in neglect, the building is not truly empty. It is full of ancient, patient magic, waiting for someone to notice. Imagine the smell of old wood, of dust, of damp stone. Imagine the faint, sweet hum of tiny voices that no one can hear. Let the quiet of that forgotten building wrap around you like a heavy blanket. Sink deeper. Rest. When a newcomer arrives in Stardew Valley, a person who has left behind the crushing routine of corporate life in the city, who has inherited a small, overgrown farm on the outskirts of Pelican Town, something shifts in the atmosphere of the valley. It is subtle, almost imperceptible. The air feels slightly different. The light catches the leaves at a slightly altered angle. The newcomer does not know it yet, but they carry something with them, a receptiveness, an openness, a willingness to connect with the land that the town's long-term residents have slowly, unconsciously lost. The first encounter with the Junimos happens almost by accident. The newcomer exploring the town stumbles into the abandoned community centre. Mayor Lewis is there, fumbling with the lock, muttering about the state of the building. He pushes open the heavy door and the two of them step inside into the dim, dusty interior, and then the newcomer sees them. Small, luminous shapes darting across the floor, vanishing behind fallen beams and scattered debris. A flash of green light, a flicker of blue. The soft, high-pitched hum of their tiny voices just barely audible over the creaking of the old building. Mayor Lewis sees nothing. He squints into the shadows and declares that the building has a rat problem. He shrugs. He leaves. And the newcomer is left standing alone in the dusty silence, wondering if they imagined what they just saw. But they did not imagine it. The Junimos appeared to them because the newcomer possesses something rare, a natural connection to the forest magic of the valley. It is not a power they chose. It is not something they earned. It is simply an inherent quality, a frequency they vibrate at, a wavelength that allows them to perceive the invisible layer of the world that most adults have long since learned to ignore. Children sometimes have it. Dreamers sometimes have it. Those who are quiet enough, open enough, present enough to simply look at the world without the heavy filter of assumption and expectation, they sometimes have it too. Inside the community centre, on a pedestal near the centre of the main room, the newcomer finds a golden scroll. It is beautiful, luminous. inscribed with symbols that seem to shift and shimmer in the dim light. The symbols are the Junimo alphabet, that ancient nature-woven language of the forest spirits. The newcomer cannot read it. The symbols are meaningless to them, a gorgeous puzzle without a key. But the scroll is clearly important. It radiates a subtle warmth, a faint vibration, as if the words themselves are alive, waiting patiently to be understood. The morning after this discovery, a letter arrives. It is from the wizard, M. Rasmodius, the wizard of Stardew Valley. He lives in a tall, dark tower at the edge of Cindersap Forest, a reclusive figure who speaks in cryptic, measured tones and studies the elemental forces that govern the natural world. He's fluent in many elemental languages. He has spent decades, perhaps centuries, observing the delicate balance between the human world and the spirit world, mediating conflicts between ancient races, maintaining the fragile peace that allows the valley to exist in its current state of quiet pastoral beauty. The wizard senses the newcomer's encounter with the Junimos. He sends a letter, an invitation, asking the newcomer to visit his tower. When they arrive, the wizard does not waste time with pleasantries. He is direct, focused, slightly otherworldly in his manner. He explains that the Junimos are forest spirits, keepers of the natural balance. He explains that most humans cannot see them, that the ability to perceive them requires a specific attunement to the magic of the forest. And then, he offers the newcomer something extraordinary. A potion, a shimmering viridescent liquid contained in a small crystal vial. The wizard explains that this potion will grant the newcomer the ability to understand the language of the Junimos, to read their golden scrolls, to comprehend their requests. The newcomer drinks the potion. The world shifts slightly. The colours seem brighter. The sounds of the forest seem clearer. And deep in their mind, a new understanding blooms, like a flower opening to the morning sun. They return to the community centre. They approach the golden scroll, and now the symbols resolve into words, clear, simple, beautiful words. We, the Junimo, are happy to aid you. In return, we ask for gifts of the valley. If you are one with the forest, then you will see the true nature of this scroll. This is the Junimo's offer. This is the contract, the ancient bargain between spirit and human, between the forest and the farm. The Junimos are willing to help restore the community centre, to repair what has been broken, to mend what has been neglected. But they cannot do it alone. They need the newcomer to participate. They need offerings, gifts drawn from the valley itself. Crops grown in the rich soil, fish pulled from the clean rivers and the deep ocean, minerals mined from the dark caverns beneath the mountains, foraged goods gathered from the forest floor. The Junimos are asking, in their quiet, gentle way, for proof that the newcomer understands the valley, that they value it, that they are willing to invest their time, their labour, their attention into the land and all it produces. Let your breathing slow even further. Feel the rhythm of the night settling around you. Imagine the golden glow of that ancient scroll, the warmth of the symbols pulsing gently beneath your fingertips. The Junimos are patient. They've been waiting for a very long time. They can wait a little longer, and so can you. Let the urgency of the waking world dissolve completely. There's nothing that requires your attention, nothing at all. The community centre contains 6 rooms, and each room houses a collection of bundles, small offerings arranged on golden altars that glow faintly with Junimo magic. Each bundle requests specific items from the valley, items that represent the interconnected web of life and labour that makes the community function. The crafts room asks for foraged goods, wildflowers and roots and berries gathered from the forest floor across all 4 seasons. Spring horseradish just beginning to push through the thawing soil. Summer grapes hanging heavy on a wild vine. Autumn hazelnuts scattered beneath the old oak trees. Winter roots pulled from the frozen ground. These are the simplest offerings, the things the valley gives freely to anyone willing to walk the paths and look closely at the ground beneath their feet. The crafts room is like a gentle introduction, the forest spirits asking, "Do you know this land? Do you walk its paths? Do you notice the small, beautiful things growing in the margins?" The pantry asks for the fruits of the farm, crops planted and watered and harvested through the long, patient cycle of the growing season. Parsnips and potatoes in the spring rain, tomatoes and melons ripening under the fierce summer sun, pumpkins and corn turning gold in the crisp autumn air. Animal products too, eggs and milk and wool, the quiet daily gifts of creatures cared for with patience and consistency. The pantry says, "Do you tend to the living things in your care? Do you nurture what you have planted? Do you understand that growth takes time?" The fish tank asks for the creatures of the water, river fish and lake fish and ocean fish, each one pulled from a specific body of water during a specific season, requiring patience, skill, and an intimate knowledge of the valley's waterways. Sunfish basking in the shallow river, sturgeon moving slowly through the deep lake, sardines schooling in the salt bright ocean, crab pot creatures pulled from the tidal shallows. The fish tank says, "Do you understand the hidden world beneath the surface? Do you have the patience to wait, to cast your line and sit quietly until the water offers up its secrets?" The boiler room asks for the treasures of the earth, copper bars smelted from rough ore, iron and gold refined in the heat of the furnace, crystals and gems pulled from the dark, dangerous depths of the mines, where slimes and bats and shadow creatures lurk in the torchlit gloom. The boiler room says, "Are you willing to go deep? Are you willing to descend into the darkness and bring back something valuable?" The bulletin board asks for the things that connect people, a chef's ingredients for a shared meal, dyes for making beautiful things, research materials for understanding the world, fodder for feeding animals through the lean winter months. The bulletin board says, "Do you understand that community is built from many small acts of care? Do you see the connections between people, the invisible threads that hold a town together?" And the vault asks simply for gold, donations of money, earned through the long, patient labour of farming and mining and fishing and foraging. The vault says, "Are you willing to invest in something larger than yourself? Are you willing to give?" With each bundle completed, the Junimos collect the offerings. They gather the items in their tiny, luminous arms, and they carry them to a small hut, a perfectly constructed miniature dwelling nestled in the main room of the community centre. This hut is their home within the abandoned building, a tiny structure that mirrors the large building around it, a house within a house, a heart within a body. And as the bundles are completed, room by room, season by season, the Junimos begin their work. They repair, they restore, they mend. Picture that slow, magical process. Imagine the Junimos working through the night, their tiny bodies glowing softly in the darkness, their miniature hands impossibly deft, repairing broken beams, replacing shattered glass, smoothing cracked stone, weaving new life into old wood. They do not use hammers or nails or mortar. They use something older, something gentler. They use the same force that knits a broken bone, that seals a wound, that pushes a green shoot up through the frozen soil in spring. They use the patient, persistent, ancient magic of renewal. Each completed room triggers a transformation not just within the community centre, but in the valley itself. When the crafts room is finished, the Junimos repair the old bridge east of the mines, opening the path to the quarry, a vast deposit of stone and ore and gems that the town had long since lost access to. When the pantry bundles are complete, the derelict greenhouse on the farm is restored, its broken glass replaced, its soil replenished, its systems renewed, allowing crops to grow year-round in the warm, sheltered interior, defying the harsh demands of winter. When the fish tank is complete, the glittering boulder blocking the stream near the mine entrance crumbles and disappears, and the water runs clear again, granting access to copper panning spots along the riverbed. When the boiler room bundles are finished, the old minecarts scattered throughout the valley roar back to life, their tracks repaired, their wheels oiled, creating a network of fast travel between the mines, the town, the bus stop and the quarry. When the bulletin board is complete, the bond between the newcomer and every non-dateable resident of Pelican Town deepens, a sudden, warm surge of goodwill, as if the community itself has taken a collective breath and recognized that something good is happening in its midst. And when the vault is complete, the old bus rumbles back to life, repaired and operational, opening the road to the vast sun-scorched Calico Desert, a world of sand and mystery beyond the valley's borders. Let your muscles relax completely. Imagine the sound of those minecarts rumbling along their restored tracks, a rhythmic metallic clatter that echoes through the mountain passages. Imagine the warm, humid air of a restored greenhouse, the smell of rich soil and growing things. Imagine the clear, cold water running freely over smooth stones, catching the sunlight and scattering it into 1,000 tiny dancing reflections. The valley is healing, the connections are being rebuilt, and the Junimos are at the centre of it all, tiny architects of an enormous restoration. To understand why the Junimos care so deeply about the community centre, you have to understand what they are on a fundamental level. They are not simply cute magical creatures performing a transactional service. They are not hired contractors repairing a building in exchange for payment. The Junimos are an expression of the valley's own health. They are the visible symptom of a thriving ecosystem, the canary in the coal mine of the natural world. When the valley is healthy, when humans and nature exist in balance, the Junimos are present, active, vibrant. When that balance is disrupted, when the land is neglected, when the community fractures, the Junimos fade, they retreat, they become invisible, not because they have gone away, but because the world around them has lost the capacity to perceive them. The community centre represents the intersection of human community and natural magic. It is the place where the two worlds meet. When the building was alive, when the town gathered there regularly, when the doors were open and the rooms were full of voices and shared meals and collective celebration, the Junimos were part of that energy. They were present, even if unseen by most. They were woven into the fabric of the building, into the rhythm of the community, into the very identity of Pelican Town. When the building was abandoned, the Junimos did not leave. They stayed. They waited. They held the space, protecting it from total collapse, keeping the faintest ember of communal magic alive in the dusty silence. They waited for someone who could see them, someone who could hear their request. Someone willing to do the slow, patient work of rebuilding what had been lost. Breathe deeply. Let the air fill the very bottom of your lungs. Feel your ribcage expand slowly, gently, pressing against the soft surface beneath you. Hold that breath for a moment, suspended, still, like a leaf caught in perfectly calm water. Then release. Let the air flow out of you like a river returning to the sea. You're part of this ancient rhythm. Inhale and exhale, growth and rest, giving and receiving. The forest breathes with you. The lore of the Junimos reaches far deeper than the community centre. Their story is connected to the oldest, most obscure histories of the Stardew Valley world. References scattered throughout the game suggest that the Junimos may have existed since the very earliest ages of the world, possibly connected to the great elemental wars that shaped the underground landscape of the valley. The elemental wars were a vast, millennium-spanning conflict, fought primarily between two ancient races, the dwarves and the shadow people. The dwarves, short and industrious, masters of metallurgy and stonework, burrowed deep beneath the mountains, carving vast networks of tunnels and chambers from the living rock. The shadow people, also called void spirits, are beings from another plane of existence, creatures of dark, unstable magic who entered the physical world during some great unnamed catastrophe. They're sensitive to light, dwelling only in the deepest, most lightless caverns, their bodies composed of crystallized dark energy, their existence fundamentally alien to the sunlit world above. The war between these two races raged for 1,000 years, a slow, grinding conflict fought in the darkness beneath the earth. The dwarves invaded the ancestral home of the shadow people, driving them deeper and deeper into the void. The shadow people retaliated, attacking dwarf settlements, sabotaging their mines, striking from the darkness with sudden, violent force. The hatred between the two races became generational, passed down through centuries, embedded in the cultural DNA of both civilizations. The wizard, Rasmodius, eventually brokered a peace. He intervened when representatives of both races nearly came to blows in the sewers beneath Pelican Town, reminding them that the elemental wars had long since ended, casting a seal of promise to ensure their grudging, fragile coexistence. The wizard speaks many elemental languages. He understands the forces that govern the unseen world, and his understanding extends to the Junimos. Some scholars of the valley's lore theorize that the Junimos are not merely forest spirits, but beings connected to the same primordial forces that created both the dwarves and the shadow people. The imagery woven into the Junimo alphabet, which includes representations of monsters found in the mines and caverns, suggests a deeper connection between the Junimos and the underground world than their cheerful, forest-dwelling nature might initially suggest. It is possible that the Junimos, like the shadow people, originated during that great unnamed catastrophe, emerging from the void into the physical world. But where the shadow people retained their dark, volatile nature, the Junimos took on the character of the surface world, the light, the green, the patient, nurturing energy of growing things. If this theory is true, the Junimos are not simply cute, helpful creatures. They are ancient. They are powerful. They are beings who chose at the very dawn of time to align themselves with the forces of growth and renewal rather than the forces of darkness and destruction. They chose the forest over the void. They chose the light over the dark. And they have been quietly, patiently tending to the natural world ever since, invisible gardeners nurturing the earth from the shadows. Let that thought settle over you like a warm, heavy blanket. Ancient, luminous beings, older than any human memory, quietly tending to the world while the world sleeps. Let the idea of that invisible care wrap around you. You're being tended to right now by the quiet, persistent forces of rest and recovery. Your body is healing. Your mind is slowing. Let the Junimos' ancient patience be your own. In the broader culture of Stardew Valley, the Junimos occupy a curious space between myth and reality. Most adults in Pelican Town do not believe in them. They are considered fictional, the subject of children's stories and local folklore. Penny, the town's quiet, devoted teacher, has a book on her shelf titled Fairies, Junimos and Other Fables, categorizing them alongside imaginary creatures, bedtime stories for children who will eventually grow up and stop believing. Sam mentions a television program called The Happy Junimo Show, a brightly coloured, cheerful cartoon that bears no resemblance to the actual, ancient, deeply complex nature of the real Junimos. The show reduces them to entertainment, a marketable image, a cute character on a screen. The real Junimos, the ones drifting silently through the abandoned community centre, are infinitely more profound than any cartoon could capture. This disconnect between the Junimos' actual nature and their cultural perception is a quiet commentary on what happens when a society loses touch with the natural world. When you spend enough time indoors, enough time staring at screens, enough time engaged in the artificial rhythms of corporate life, the real, living magic of the world becomes unbelievable. It becomes fantasy. It becomes something for children, something to grow out of, something to dismiss with a knowing smile and a shake of the head. The adults of Pelican Town do not believe in the Junimos because they have forgotten how to look at the world with the kind of open, unhurried attention that the Junimos require. They're too busy, too distracted, too caught up in the pragmatic demands of daily life to pause, to listen, to perceive the faint, sweet hum of ancient magic drifting through the air beneath the trees. But the Junimos do not resent this. They do not grow bitter about being forgotten. They simply wait. They are patient beyond any human comprehension of patience. They have been waiting for centuries. They will wait for centuries more. Because the Junimos understand something that humans often forget. That cycles are eternal. Things become neglected. Things fall apart. But things are also rebuilt. Things are renewed. The pendulum swings, the wheel turns, and eventually someone walks into the dusty building and sees the golden scroll and drinks the wizard's potion and begins, slowly, carefully, bundle by bundle, to repair what has been broken. Let your jaw relax completely. Let your tongue rest softly against the bottom of your mouth. Release any remaining tension in the muscles around your eyes. The Junimos are patient. They do not rush. They do not demand. They simply wait, glowing softly in the dark, trusting that the turning of the great wheel will eventually bring the care they need. Let yourself trust in the same way. Trust that rest will come. Trust that sleep will take you. Stop trying to force it. Just let it happen, the way moss grows slowly over stone, without effort, without resistance, simply because that is what moss does. The completion of all the community centre bundles triggers one of the most beautiful moments in the game. On the first sunny day after the final bundle is placed, the entire town gathers at the newly restored community centre. The building is transformed. The peeling paint is fresh and bright. The broken windows are whole. The leaking roof is repaired. Balloons hang from the eaves. The doors stand wide open, welcoming, inviting, celebrating. The townsfolk gather inside. Mayor Lewis delivers a speech, beaming with pride, as if he had personally overseen the renovation rather than dismissing the building's magical inhabitants as rats. The energy is jubilant, communal, electric. The town is together again, gathered in the space that was built for exactly this purpose. And in the midst of the celebration, a small, satisfying confrontation unfolds. Morris, the cold corporate manager of the Joja Mart, arrives to assert the corporation's claim over the building. Pierre, the stubborn, passionate owner of the general store, confronts him. Words are exchanged, and then Pierre punches Maurice so hard that the man flies across the room. It is a cathartic, slightly absurd moment of triumph, the small-town shopkeeper physically ejecting the corporate parasite from the heart of the community. Jojamart closes its doors permanently. Pierre's store begins operating every day of the week. The balance of power in Pelican Town shifts decisively back toward local, communal life. And the Junimos? What do? They leave. They have done their work. The community centre is restored. The community is gathered. The balance between human life and natural magic has been re-established, at least partially, at least for now. The Junimos do not stay to receive thanks. They do not demand recognition. They do not ask for a statue in the town square or a plaque on the wall. They simply slip away, quietly, silently, drifting back into the forest from which they came. They return to the hidden clearings, the moss-covered gathering places, the ancient luminous world beneath the trees. They go home. It is a bittersweet departure. The building that sheltered them in its years of abandonment is now full of human voices, human warmth, human activity. There is no room for them anymore, not because they are unwelcome, but because the space is serving its intended purpose again. The Junimos' role was to hold the space, to keep the ember alive, to wait for the person who could see them and respond to their request. That work is done. The ember has become a fire. The community centre is alive again, and the forest spirits, with their infinite patience and their gentle glowing light, are no longer needed here. They will be needed again, somewhere, sometime. They always are. But for now, they rest. Imagine them drifting through the twilight forest, their tiny bodies casting soft pools of coloured light on the mossy ground. Green and blue and gold moving in slow, quiet formation through the ancient trees, returning to their clearings, settling into the silence, resuming their eternal vigil over the natural world. The forest welcomes them back. The trees seem to lean slightly toward them as they pass, the branches parting gently to allow them through. The air is filled with the faint, sweet fragrance of their presence, that indefinable scent of living magic. Let that image carry you deeper into relaxation. Tiny lights, drifting through a darkened forest, returning home. You too are returning to rest, to stillness, to the quiet centre of the night. Let your whole body become heavy. Let your thoughts become slow, scattered, disconnected. Let the narrative dissolve into a gentle wash of sensation and sound. But the Junimos story does not end with the restoration of the community centre. Their connection to the valley and to the newcomer who helped restore it continues to deepen. After the community centre is complete, and after a series of magical quests involving the wizard's estranged ex-wife, the witch, and the retrieval of a bottle of enchanted magic ink from her swamp-shrouded hut, the wizard unlocks new magical constructions that can be built on the farm. Among these constructions is the Junimo hut. The Junimo hut is a small, charming structure, almost toy-like in its proportions, that can be placed directly on the farmland. It cost a significant investment, 20,000 gold, 200 pieces of stone, 9-star fruits, and 100 pieces of fibre. It is an expensive, deliberate commitment, but in return, 3 Junimos take up residence in the hut. They are your Junimos now, in a sense. Or rather, you're their farmer. They have chosen, of their own ancient, quiet volition, to extend their care beyond the forest and into the cultivated fields of the farm. Each morning, when the weather is clear and the sun is shining, the 3 Junimos emerge from their hut. They're small and round and glowing, bobbing gently as they move through the rows of crops they harvest. They pick the ripe produce from the plants with their tiny deft hands, gathering melons and blueberries and pumpkins and corn and carrying them, somehow, back to the hut, where the harvested goods are deposited in a small sack outside the wall. It is an absurdly charming sight. These ancient forest spirits, these beings connected to the primordial forces of the world, diligently picking strawberries from a perfectly ordinary farm. They work within a broad radius of the hut, covering a wide square of farmland centred on the hut's entrance. They can pass through trellis crops that would block a human farmer, slipping between the vines and supports as if they were made of light, which, in a sense, they are. They work all day, from the first light of morning until the evening begins to cool, around 7 o'clock, when they retreat back into the hut for the night. They do not work in the rain. They do not work in the winter. They are creatures of warmth and light, aligned with the growing seasons, resting when the earth rests. If you place raisins inside the Junimo hut, the spirits receive them as a gift. Raisins are their favourite food, and the offering pleases them. In return, they work with enhanced enthusiasm, and there is a chance, roughly 1 in 5, that they will harvest a double crop, both items matching the quality that the farmer's skill would normally produce. A small sign appears outside the hut when the raisins are active, a quiet, visible indicator that the ancient bargain of gifts and service is alive and well. And there is one more detail, one more beautiful, unnecessary, purely aesthetic touch that encapsulates everything the Junimos represent. If you place a gemstone inside the Junimo hut, the colour of the Junimos changes. Drop an emerald inside and the spirits emerge glowing green. Place an amethyst and they turn purple. A ruby produces red, a topaz produces yellow. And if you place a prismatic shard, that rare, magnificent crystal that cycles through every colour of the spectrum, the Junimos themselves begin to shimmer and shift, cycling through a rainbow of colours as they move through the fields, harvesting crops in an ever-changing cascade of light. It serves no practical purpose. The colour change does not affect their harvesting speed or efficiency. It is purely a gift for the eyes, a moment of joy, a small act of beauty in the middle of the practical, productive work of farming. And that is so perfectly in character for the Junimos. They are beings for whom beauty is not separate from function, for whom the aesthetic and the practical are woven together as tightly as the threads of a tapestry. The Junimos do not understand the human distinction between useful and beautiful. To them, all things are both. Let the image of those rainbow-shifting Junimos float through your mind. Tiny prismatic lights moving through a field of golden crops, casting miniature rainbows on the soil as they pass. Let the colours wash over you. Red fading to orange, orange dissolving into yellow, yellow deepening into green, green cooling into blue, blue darkening into purple, and purple warming back to red. An endless, gentle cycle, slow and soothing, like the turning of the seasons themselves. To truly appreciate the Junimos on the farm, you have to follow them through the full cycle of the growing year. You have to watch how they respond to the rhythms of the valley as the seasons turn, one into the next, each bringing its own light, its own temperature, its own mood. In spring, when the ground first thaws and the earliest seeds are pressed into the dark, wet soil, the Junimos stir inside their hut. They have been dormant through the long winter, curled together in the warm interior, their glow reduced to the faintest possible pulse, conserving their energy, waiting for the signal that the growing world has resumed. That signal comes with the first warm morning. The air shifts. The frost on the windows of the hut melts into thin, glittering rivulets. And the 3 Junimos emerge, blinking, bobbing, their lights swelling back to full brightness as if they are being recharged by the very sunshine pouring over the freshly tilled fields. Spring on the farm is a time of raw potential. The soil is dark and rich, turned over by the hoe, patterned with neat rows of planted seeds. Parsnips, potatoes, cauliflower, green beans, each one tucked carefully into the earth, watered with the patient, repetitive rhythm of the watering can or the quiet click and hiss of sprinklers. The Junimos watch the crops grow. They cannot harvest a seed, cannot pick an unripe plant, cannot accelerate the slow, patient process of germination and growth. They simply wait, bobbing gently among the rows, their tiny eyes observing the first green shoots pushing up through the soil with what can only be described as delight. When the parsnips finally mature, when the green tops swell and the roots are ready to be pulled, the Junimos descend upon them with cheerful efficiency. They pluck and gather and carry, their small bodies moving with surprising speed, depositing the harvest in the sack outside the hut wall before returning immediately for more. Spring rain keeps them indoors. On those grey, drizzling days when the sky hangs low and heavy over the valley, the Junimos stay in the hut, their glow visible through the tiny windows, a faint, warm light flickering in the wet gloom. They do not seem unhappy about the rain. They simply accept it, the way the earth accepts it, the way the growing seeds accept it. Rain is part of the cycle. Rest is part of the work. Not every day is a harvesting day, and the Junimos understand this intuitively, without frustration, without impatience. Summer is when the farm truly explodes with life, and the Junimos are at their most active. The days are long and hot, the sun climbing high and lingering late into the evening, and the Junimos use every available hour of daylight. They emerge earlier, bobbing out of the hut door while the dew is still glistening on the blueberry bushes. They work through the sweltering midday heat, seemingly unbothered by the temperature, their glow competing with the shimmer of heat haze rising from the baked soil. Melons the size of a human head, fat red tomatoes, clusters of hot peppers burning bright on the vine. The Junimos harvest them all with equal enthusiasm, their tiny arms somehow managing the improbable physics of carrying objects many times their own size. The summer thunderstorms that roll across the valley in the late afternoon, those dramatic violet-skied tempests that crack the air with lightning and dump sheets of warm rain onto the steaming earth, send the Junimos scurrying back inside. They huddle in the hut, their collective glow pulsing gently, and through the tiny windows you might imagine them watching the lightning illuminate the fields in split-second bursts of white brilliance. There is something deeply comforting about knowing they are in there, safe, warm, waiting for the storm to pass with the same ancient patience they bring to everything else. Autumn is the Junimos' most bountiful season. The crops of fall are heavy and rich, the colours of the harvest deep and saturated. Pumpkins swell to enormous size in the cooling air, their orange skins glowing in the slanted afternoon light. Cranberries ripen in dark red clusters. Yams push up through soil that is beginning to harden with the first hints of approaching frost. The Junimos work the autumn fields with a quiet urgency that feels less like anxiety and more like celebration. They know winter is coming. They know their season of active work is drawing to a close. and so they harvest with a thoroughness that leaves no ripe plant untouched, bobbing through the rows of crops as the leaves on the surrounding trees turn gold and copper and deep, blood crimson. The air in autumn smells different. It carries the sharp, clean bite of wood smoke from distant chimneys, the sweet decay of fallen leaves composting on the forest floor, the earthy richness of soil preparing to sleep. The Junimos seem to inhale this air with particular pleasure, their glow taking on a warmer, more golden tone, as if reflecting the amber light of the season itself. On clear autumn evenings, when the sun sets early and the sky turns from pale orange to deep indigo in a matter of minutes, the Junimos retreat to their hut with a contented, unhurried slowness, as if savouring the last warmth of the day before the long dark settles in. And then winter comes. The first snowfall blankets the farm in a thick, pristine layer of white. The fields are empty, the soil frozen, the crops long since harvested. The Junimo hut sits quietly in the snow, a small, charming structure wearing a cap of white on its roof, smoke curling faintly from its tiny chimney, though no fire is visible inside. The Junimos do not emerge. They're dormant, resting, conserving their energy through the cold, dark months. The hut is silent, the fields are silent. The entire farm enters a state of suspended animation, held in the grip of frost, waiting for the distant, inevitable return of spring. But even in the dormancy of winter, the Junimos are not truly absent. Their hut still glows faintly from within, a warm, subtle light that is visible from the farmhouse window on dark evenings, a reminder that life persists even in the deepest cold. The farm is resting. The Junimos are resting. And outside, the snow falls silently, continuously, covering the earth in a thick insulating blanket that protects the dormant roots and sleeping seeds below. Let that image of the winter farm settle over you, the white silence, the faint glow of the Junimo hut in the distance, the absolute undisturbed stillness of a world at rest. Feel the heaviness of the snow pressing gently down on the landscape, and let that same heaviness press gently down on your body. Your legs are heavy, your arms are heavy, your eyelids are impossibly, wonderfully heavy. The snow does not demand anything of the earth. It simply covers it, protects it, allows it to sleep. Let the quiet weight of the night do the same for you. The wizard's connection to the Junimos extends far beyond the single potion he offers the newcomer. Miraz Modius has spent his entire life, and possibly several lifetimes, studying the intersection of the human world and the spirit world. His tower, that tall, dark, mysterious structure standing at the edge of Cindersap Forest, is filled with ancient books, bubbling cauldrons, star charts, and crystalline instruments that measure forces invisible to the ordinary human eye. He speaks the elemental languages of the earth, the water, the fire, the air. He understands the grammar of the void and the syntax of the forest. And among all the magical beings he has studied, the Junimos hold a special place. The wizard views the Junimos as indicators of the valley's spiritual health. He understands that their presence, their visibility, their willingness to interact with humans is a direct reflection of the balance between civilization and nature. When that balance tips too far toward neglect, when humans stop caring for the land and for each other, the Junimos fade. They become folklore, they become cartoons, they become entries in dusty books shelved next to fairy tales and superstitions. The wizard has watched this cycle repeat itself over the long course of his life. Civilizations rising and falling, communities forming and fracturing, the Junimos appearing and disappearing like a heartbeat, a pulse of green and gold that measures the health of the world. His relationship with his ex-wife, the witch, is part of this same complex tapestry. The witch was once connected to the same magical forces that sustain the Junimos. She lived in the tower with the wizard, studied the same ancient texts, worked the same elemental spells. But something went wrong between them. A mistake, an act of betrayal, perhaps infidelity, that shattered the trust between them and sent the witch spiraling into bitterness and dark magic. She retreated to a swamp-shrouded hut on the far side of the valley, surrounded by murky water and gnarled, leafless trees, and began cursing the things she once protected. She flies over farms in the dead of night, turning chicken eggs into strange, dark, void eggs. She is angry. She is hurt. She is a cautionary tale about what happens when a powerful connection to the natural world is poisoned by personal suffering. The magic ink that the wizard sends the newcomer to retrieve from the witch's hut is more than just a quest item. It is a symbol of restored communication. The ink is what allows the wizard to write new spells, to construct new magical buildings, to extend the reach of the valley's protective enchantments. Without it, his power is limited. With it, he can offer the newcomer the Junimo huts, the earth and water obelisks, the gold clock that stops the decay of fences and the spread of debris. The ink is the medium through which magic is made tangible, and retrieving it from the witch's hut, navigating the goblin guard with an offering of void mayonnaise, is an act of healing, a small step toward mending a broken relationship, a quiet restoration that mirrors the larger restoration of the community centre itself. The Dark Talisman quest that leads to the Witch's Swamp takes the newcomer through the sewers beneath Pelican Town, past Krobus, the friendly shadow person who sells strange void-touched wares in the underground darkness. Krobus is a remnant of the Elemental Wars, a shadow person who chose peace over continued conflict, who lives quietly in the dark beneath the town's feet, selling void eggs and monster fireplace decorations to the occasional adventurer. His presence in the sewers is a reminder that the valley's history is layered, that beneath the pastoral beauty of the surface there are entire civilizations, entire histories, entire wars that have been fought and forgotten. The Junimos, the dwarves, the shadow people, the wizard, the witch, all of them are threads in the same ancient tapestry. All of them are connected by the elemental forces that govern the valley, the magic of the earth, the darkness of the void, the light of the forest, the patient, turning rhythm of the seasons. The newcomer who arrives in Pelican Town, who inherits a neglected farm and begins the slow, daily work of cultivation, is stepping into the middle of a story that has been unfolding for millennia. They are the newest thread in the tapestry, the latest participant in the ancient ongoing negotiation between human life and natural magic, and the Junimos welcome them, because the Junimos do not judge by history or lineage or past mistakes. They judge by attention, by willingness, by the simple, persistent act of showing up day after day to tend the land and care for the community. The newcomer earns the Junimos' trust not through grand heroism, but through the quiet, repetitive, fundamentally unglamorous work of planting seeds, watering crops, catching fish, mining ore, and placing offerings on golden altars. The Junimos respond to effort. They respond to care. They respond to the patient, daily accumulation of small actions that, over the course of seasons, transform a neglected farm into a thriving homestead and a fractured community into a whole one. Relax the muscles in your forehead. Let your brow become completely smooth, as if a gentle hand has passed over it, smoothing away the lines of concentration, the furrows of worry, the tension of a day spent thinking and deciding and responding. You do not need to think anymore tonight. You do not need to decide anything. You do not need to respond to a single thing. The only thing your mind needs to do right now is soften. Let it soften the way warm water softens clay, the way morning light softens the hard edges of a dark room. Just let go. There is a shadow side to the Junimos story, and it is worth visiting briefly, even here in the quiet dark, because it deepens our understanding of what the Junimos represent and why their presence matters so much. In Stardew Valley, there is an alternative path. Instead of completing the community centre bundles, instead of earning the Junimos trust through offerings and patience, the newcomer can choose to purchase a membership to Junimos. The Joja Corporation, the same massive soulless conglomerate that the newcomer escaped when they left the city, operates a supermarket on the outskirts of Pelican Town. The store is fluorescent lit, sterile, impersonal, managed by a cold, ambitious man named Morris, who wears a corporate smile and speaks in the bland, focus-grouped language of processed cheerfulness. If the newcomer buys the Joja membership, the community centre is demolished. The Junimos vanish. The golden scrolls disappear. The building is gutted and transformed into a Joja warehouse, a bland, functional storage facility with no warmth, no character, no magic. The community improvements that the Junimos would have provided, the bridge, the greenhouse, the minecarts, the bus, are instead purchased with gold through the Joja Community Development Form. The same outcomes are achieved, but the method is entirely different. Instead of a slow, patient exchange of gifts and labour between human and spirit, the improvements are bought with money, transactionally, efficiently, without any sacred bargain, without any connection to the natural magic of the valley. The Joja route is faster, it is simpler, it requires no foraging, no fishing, no mining, no attention to the rhythms of the seasons. It requires only gold, accumulated through whatever means the newcomer prefers. And when all the community upgrades are complete, the warehouse can be converted into a movie theatre, a place of entertainment, a distraction, a screen. But the Junimos are gone. They have retreated completely into the forest, their light extinguished in Pelican Town, their golden scrolls dissolved, their tiny hut in the community centre destroyed along with the building that sheltered it. The town gets its improvements. The bus runs, the minecarts work, the greenhouse grows crops year-round. But the ancient sacred connection between the human community and the forest spirits is severed. The transactional approach has replaced the relational one. The efficient has replaced the meaningful. The corporate has consumed the communal. It is a quietly devastating alternative. The fact that the game allows it, that the player is free to choose the Joja route without penalty or punishment, makes it all the more resonant. The game does not judge you for choosing Joja. It does not lock you out of content or punish you with negative consequences. It simply shows you what is lost. The Junimos are lost. The magic is lost. The golden scrolls with their ancient shimmering symbols are lost. And what replaces them is clean, functional, boring, and entirely devoid of wonder. This is the shadow that makes the Junimos light so meaningful. Their story is not just a cheerful tale of cute forest spirits helping a farmer. It is a story about the choice between two fundamentally different ways of being in the world. One way values efficiency, transaction, speed, the conversion of everything into monetary value. The other way values patience, relationship, beauty, the slow, sacred exchange of gifts between beings who inhabit the same land and share responsibility for its care. The Junimos embody the second way. They are living proof that the inefficient, the slow, the patient, the beautiful are not luxuries. They are necessities. They are the things that make a community more than a collection of buildings. They are the things that make a life more than a series of transactions. The quiet hum of the Junimos voices, that faint harmonic vibration that floats through the air of the community centre, is the sound of a world that has chosen relationship over transaction. It is the sound of a community that has chosen to invest its time and attention into the sacred, unglamorous work of caring. And it is the sound that is absent from the Joja warehouse. The warehouse is silent, efficient, functional, but silent. And in that silence, something ancient and precious has been extinguished. Let the silence settle around you now, but let it be the silence of the forest, not the silence of the warehouse. Let it be the silence that is full of life, full of the quiet breathing of trees, the faint rustle of small creatures in the undergrowth, the distant rhythmic pulse of a creek flowing over stones. Let it be the silence that holds the possibility of a tiny luminous shape drifting past in the dark, glowing softly, carrying a strawberry in its impossibly small arms. Let it be the silence of wonder, not the silence of emptiness. In Pelican Town, small traces of the Junimos persist in the cultural fabric of everyday life, like fossils embedded in stone, evidence of a once living connection that most people have forgotten. Penny, the quiet red-haired teacher who tutors the town's 2 children in the museum and library, keeps that book on her shelf. Fairies, Junimos, and other fables. To Penny, the Junimos are stories, characters from a local mythology that she might share with Jas and Vincent during a lesson on folklore and tradition. She does not know that the creatures in her book are real. She does not know that they are living in the community centre, just a short walk from the museum where she teaches. But the book's presence on her shelf is significant. It means the Junimos have not been entirely forgotten. They exist in the cultural memory of the town, preserved in children's literature, passed down through generations, waiting to be rediscovered by someone who reads the story and wonders if it might be true. Sam, the energetic skateboard-riding young man who works part-time at the local supermarket and dreams of starting a band, mentions a television show called The Happy Junimo Show. It is clearly a children's cartoon, bright and simple and commercial, reducing the ancient forest spirits to adorable, marketable characters. The show almost certainly bears no resemblance to the real Junimos, their complex history, their connection to the elemental wars, their sacred role as keepers of the forest. But even this commercial, sanitized version serves a purpose. It keeps the name alive. It ensures that the word Junimo continues to circulate in the consciousness of the valley, even if stripped of its meaning, even if reduced to entertainment. Somewhere, a child watching the Happy Junimo Show might feel a spark of recognition when they walk past the old community centre and see a flicker of green light in the dusty window. Somewhere the cartoon might plant a seed that, in time, grows into genuine perception. This is how mythology works. This is how the sacred persists in a secular world. Not through grand temples or organised worship, but through children's stories and television shows and dusty books on forgotten shelves. The divine does not demand a cathedral. It simply asks to be remembered. And the Junimos, those tiny, glowing, impossibly patient forest spirits, are content to be remembered however they can. As fables, as cartoons, as names on a page. Because they trust that the cycle will turn, that eventually someone will look past the cartoon and see the truth, that someone will read the fable and recognize the reality that someone will walk into the dusty building and see the golden scroll and feel in their chest the faint, undeniable pulse of ancient living magic. Now let your mind drift even further from the structured path of the story. We are deep into the quiet hours. The narrative is becoming softer, more impressionistic, less concerned with facts and events, and more concerned with the feeling, the texture, the emotional resonance of the Junimos existence. Think about what the Junimos represent. Not in terms of game mechanics, not in terms of lore or mythology, but in terms of what they mean to the person lying in bed, listening to this voice, trying to find rest. The Junimos are proof that small things matter. They are tiny, almost insignificant in size, easily overlooked, easily dismissed. Mayor Lewis sees rats. The townsfolk see fictional characters. The world walks past them without noticing. And yet these small, invisible creatures are responsible for one of the most transformative events in the life of Pelican Town. They hold the space. They keep the ember alive. They wait with infinite patience for someone who can see them, and when that person arrives, they offer a bargain that leads to the restoration of an entire community. How often do we overlook the small things? How often do we dismiss the quiet, persistent forces working beneath the surface of our lives? The tiny daily habits that, over time, build something extraordinary. The small acts of kindness that, compounded across months and years, create a life of genuine warmth and connection. The quiet, patient work of tending to ourselves, to our bodies, to our minds, that does not produce dramatic, visible results overnight, but that slowly, gradually, unmistakably transforms us into healthier, gentler, more resilient versions of ourselves. The Junimos do not rush, they do not force, they do not demand immediate spectacular results. They simply show up day after day, season after season, glowing softly in the dark, doing the patient, invisible work of renewal. And that is exactly what rest is. Sleep is not a dramatic event. It is not a switch that flips from awake to unconscious. It is a slow, quiet process of letting go, of releasing, of allowing the body and mind to do the gentle, invisible work of repair. You do not need to force sleep. You do not need to perform it. You simply need to create the conditions for it. The quiet, the dark, the warmth, the safety, and then get out of the way. Let the body do what it knows how to do. Let the ancient, patient magic of rest take over. You are the community center. You've been carrying the weight of the day, the demands, the noise, the constant exhausting activity of being a person in the world. And now, the Junimos of your own body, the quiet, invisible systems of repair and renewal are going to work. They are mending the fatigue. They are smoothing the rough edges of stress. They are restoring the paint, replacing the glass, shoring up the foundations. All you need to do is let them. Breathe in, slowly, deeply. Feel the air reach the very bottom of your lungs. Breathe out, completely. Let every molecule of stale daytime air leave your body. The forest is dark around you. The trees stand sentinel, their branches reaching into a sky scattered with 1,000 sharp, bright stars. The air is cool and fragrant with pine and damp earth, and that faint, sweet, indefinable scent of ancient magic. Somewhere in the distance, a frog croaks, a single, rhythmic note repeated over and over, steady as a heartbeat. Somewhere closer, a creek trickles over smooth stones, a continuous liquid murmur that blends with the hum of the wind in the high branches. The Junimos are in their clearings. They're gathered in slow, luminous circles on the soft green moss. Green ones beside blue ones, gold ones beside pink ones, all of them glowing gently, casting overlapping pools of pastel light on the forest floor. They are not speaking, they are simply being together, present, still, connected to each other and to the earth beneath them and to the vast turning sky above. They are resting. Even ancient spirits rest. Even the keepers of the forest need to be still sometimes, to stop tending and fixing and nurturing and simply exist, quietly, in the dark, surrounded by the other small luminous beings who understand without words exactly what they are. Imagine yourself in that clearing, not as a human, not as a waking person with responsibilities and anxieties, and a tomorrow full of tasks. Imagine yourself as light. A small, glowing, warm point of light resting on the cool, damp moss, surrounded by other lights, surrounded by the quiet hum of ancient companionship. You are part of the circle. You belong here. You are small, and that smallness is not a diminishment. It is a relief. You do not need to be large tonight. You do not need to be impressive or productive or visible. You can be small and soft and still and glowing, resting on the moss, listening to the creek, feeling the slow, patient pulse of the earth beneath you. The moon rises slowly over the trees. Its light is silver and cold, filtering through the branches in long diagonal beams that illuminate the tiny particles of dust and pollen drifting through the air. The shadows on the forest floor shift gently as the branches sway in a breeze so faint it is more felt than heard. The temperature drops slightly, the air growing cooler, pressing gently against your skin, encouraging you to curl inward, to pull the warmth around you, to settle deeper into the soft, insulated cocoon of rest. The Junimos light dims slightly as the night deepens. They're conserving their energy. They're drawing inward, the way a flower closes its petals at dusk, the way a hibernating animal slows its heartbeat to the barest, most essential rhythm. Their glow becomes a faint pulse, a gentle rhythmic brightening and dimming that matches the cadence of a sleeping breath. In, and the light swells slightly. Out, and it fades. In, and it swells. Out, and it fades. A natural ancient metronome measuring the passage of the night in the slowest, gentlest possible units. Match your breathing to theirs. In, and the light swells. Out, and it fades. In, out, slow, steady, unhurried. There is no urgency. There is no destination. There is only this breath, and the next, and the soft, pulsing glow of ancient, patient light surrounding you in the dark. The creek continues its liquid murmur. The frog continues its rhythmic croak. The wind barely stirs the highest branches. The stars are fixed and brilliant overhead, each one a tiny point of light separated from the next by an impossible distance. And yet, from here, from the forest floor, they appear close, clustered, connected, a vast, silent community of luminous bodies scattered across the dark. You are drifting now. The words are becoming less distinct, less important. The meaning is dissolving, and all that remains is the sound, the shape of the syllables, the gentle rhythmic cadence of a voice designed to carry you somewhere you cannot go with effort, somewhere you can only reach by surrendering, by letting go, by trusting the current to take you where you need to be. The Junimos have taught us their lesson. They have shown us that the world is full of invisible magic, invisible care, invisible systems of renewal working quietly beneath the surface. They have shown us that patience is not passive. It is the most active, most demanding, most powerful force available to us. They have shown us that small things matter, that beauty is not separate from function, that communities can be rebuilt, relationships can be restored, abandoned buildings can become gathering places again, and that all of this happens not through grand dramatic gestures, but through the slow, steady, daily accumulation of small offerings, placed gently on golden altars, in the quiet, patient hope that something ancient and good will notice and respond. You have placed your offering tonight. You have given this time to rest, to stillness, to the quiet work of sleep. The Junimos of your body are doing their work. Your muscles are releasing. Your mind is slowing. Your breathing is deep and even and perfectly beautifully regular. The golden scroll is blank. The bundles are complete. The community centre of your body is being restored, beam by beam, stone by stone, breath by breath. Sleep now. Sleep the way the forest sleeps in winter. Sleep the way the earth rests beneath a blanket of snow. Sleep the way the Junimos rest in their hidden clearings, glowing faintly, pulsing gently, connected to the ancient, patient rhythm of a world that has been turning for longer than any memory can reach. You are safe. You are warm. You are small and glowing and perfectly, completely at rest. The forest holds you. The night surrounds you. The quiet, persistent magic of renewal is working in every cell, every breath, every slow, diminishing thought. Let go. Let the last light fade. Let the last thought dissolve. Let the gentle, ancient hum of the Junimos carry you completely, irreversibly, over the threshold into the deep, dreamless, utterly silent dark. Good night. Good night. Sleep well and be entirely at peace.